is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox. We are Florida.
The baseball day across baseball begins in 5 minutes. Every game, as the regular season ends, will start in about 5 minutes. And here in D.C., the National League East champs, the Washington Nationals, and the Miami Marlins will finish off the regular season. Hi, everybody. Rich Waltz along with Al Leiter. That's a lot to talk about today with playoff implications in other games. We've got our Vin Scully pins on going. Yes. It's pretty cool that Major League Baseball starts every game at the same time. And when this game starts, Don Mattingly will not be managing the Marlins. In case you haven't heard, Martin Prado is going to manage the club. This should be fun. Jeff Mathis is his bench coach.
It is fun, and talking to Don Mattingly before the game, he got this from Joe Torre years ago when he was in the Joe Torre's coaching staff. He's done it since. Certainly, I can't think of a better guy, Rich, than Martin Prado. Right? He's going to be playing third. I did kid around with Donnie. I said, could he make a pitching chase from third base? He said, no, I'm going to let Mathis do that. This is going to be fun for these guys.
It will be fun for these guys. And there's a somewhat of a compelling pitching matchup here. Let's start with Tom Kohler, who had some progress this year. Last few starts, not where he really wants to be. A chance to finish strong.
Yeah, that's fair, Rich. I think, listen, every one of these guys obviously, get a chance, during this series. I know that the team's, wasn't able to finish that 500 or better. But Tom Kohler, you look where he is in, Marlins ranks. This guy's a horse. He's a bulldog. He doesn't give in. I think sometimes it hurts him. He's given up, a few too many home runs this September. And, see how Tommy pitches. I like when he uses all 4 pitches. He's very effective.
Now, there are a lot of guys vying for postseason awards. And for Max Scherzer, he could put the finishing touches on another Cy Young resume.
Yeah, this guy is front line for any team in baseball. You look at this, he's going for number 20. That is a big deal for every pitcher that's ever towed the hill. I mean, strikeouts has been awesome. This guy is nasty. A couple starts ago, I know he pitched against the Marlins. Ended up winning, but gave up a few runs against the Marlins.
And while you may think that this is just the last game of the season, remember 2 years ago, we were here. Jordan Zimmerman, a tune-up start. He ended up throwing a no-hitter against the Marlins. So you never know what could happen. There might be a batting title on the line here in Washington, D.C. late in this ball game as well. Season finale. Everybody jump. We've got baseball coming up. On Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Ram. Get power you can depend on at Ram Power Days. By Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by your local Toyota dealers. Let's go places. D. Gordon, little salute to Dusty Baker of the Nationals. And Gordon will lead it off. Tomas Talis and Martin Prado will follow. And here's the rest of the fish, brought to you by UHealth Sports Medicine. Now, Prado is going to manage. He is going to start. If he gets a hit, he'll stay in the game. If he doesn't get a hit his first time out, he's going to come out and manage from the bench. Yelich, Bohr, Scruggs, Destin Hood, another start. Echeverria is at short, and Tom Kohler in the 9 spot. Max Scherzer whips in a fastball, and D. Gordon rips one foul. Scherzer's numbers pop right off the page. 34th start. Look at the innings total, the ERA, and the strikeouts, the best in baseball. And Gordon swings and misses. Al, what number is most important to you?
Well, I'll tell you what, the 277 stands out, no question, Rich. I think this guy, certainly all the numbers, as you say, is certainly worthy of another Cy Young for Max Scherzer.
Gordon lowers the barrel on that, pops it foul, and it's out of play. Now, D. Gordon, at this time last year, came into play just trailing Bryce Harper in the batting race. And, of course, Gordon was in Philly with the Marlins. D. Gordon opened with a bang, homer, double, single, and ended up winning the batting title. 0-2 pitch. And Al, coming down to the last day here, although he is banged up, Daniel Murphy is just percentage points away from DJ LeMahieu for the National League batting title. Murphy is not in the lineup for the Nationals, and he hasn't been for a while, nursing an injury in his glutes. However, you never know, because Dusty Baker has said late in the ball game he may give Murphy a shot at the batting title. DJ LeMahieu is not in the lineup for the Rockies. Here's a 1-2 and a swing and a miss. Gordon goes down.
That good slider from Max Scherzer, very impressive. Huge contract he got a couple years ago after Detroit. I love everything about this guy. He's got the demeanor and disposition of an ace of any staff. Let's take a look at that. Hey, Cy Young stuff. There's no doubt about it. The leads Major League Baseball with the 277 strikeouts. His walks to strikeout ratio, batting average best in National League. Purely overpowering stuff. Fastball will get it up 98 miles an hour. Love his slider. He throws all 4 pitches, curveball as well. And to say on a roll, Rich, his last 9 starts, the team's 9-0. He's 7-0. Since June 1st, Max Scherzer is 14-3 with a 2.22. He's had a few clunkers, 4 to be exact, in his full season, making his 34th start today.
Tomas Talis lifts one in the air, center field. Trey Turner, sunglasses employed, is there to make the catch. Good swing by Talis. Nationals defense brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Speedy Ben Revere in left. Trey Turner even faster in center. Bryce Harper is in right. Ryan Zimmerman, Stephen Drew on the corners. Wilmer Defoe, Danny Espinoza. Last day for the beard. And Jose Lobaton is behind the plate. And here is Martin Prado. Don Mattingly told Prado, look, I'll let you start the game. If you get a hit and add to your 304 average, you can stay in. If you don't, I'm going to bring you out, or you take yourself out and you start managing. That's why he's got Jeff Mathis as his bench coach in case he knocks one in the gap here and picks up a hit. Now the Marlins just saw Scherzer a week and a half ago, and Prado against him, very good. So even if, I mean, it was pretty easy for Prado to put himself in the lineup against Scherzer. He had documentation. See, look, I hit this guy. I'm hitting third.
I love it. I love the fact that Don Mattingly does this. You know, he's done it since he's managed with the Dodgers. It just loosens guys up, and you know, for much of what's going on here, it's good to have some levity.
And guess what? Martin Prado into right field. He gets to stay in the game. Or at least that was what Don Mattingly said. So Prado singles to right. He's going to add to that 304 average. And so he'll be player manager for at least a couple of innings.
Well, how often have we seen Martin Prado do this? This is a fastball, middle away at 95 miles an hour, kind of down the middle, just stays with it. What a year he's had. What do you think? That would tick it up to about 305, wouldn't it? What a player. What a hitter.
And so Prado at first, and here's Yelich, and he fouls it off.
Another solid year from Christian Yelich. And you look right up and down this lineup. It's at 295. Realmuto, what a year he's had at 303.
Oh, 1 pitch. Yelich cracks it into right field. And so he's got a hit. Now, if Yelich has a big day.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, he's got to have a big day. But that base hit for Yelich.
Every hit's probably a point, right? Let's see, what do you get? Yelich is 573 at bats. 170 hits on the year. 296.
So 1 point, 296. Never know. Remember, he had that great finish last year in Philly, where he had 5 hits in one game and 3 in another, in a doubleheader on Saturday to get to 300. Here's Bohr now. And Scherzer throws a strike. A couple of 2-out singles. Prado and Yelich. Bohr had a really nice night to start this series. It was 3 for 4, a double, and 2 RBI singles.
Great series against the Mets. He's the what-if player. What if he was healthy all year?
And Don Mattingly said that the other night. He said that the guy that we missed the most was Justin Bohr. A left-handed power bat in the middle of the lineup, out for 2 months with that high ankle sprain. Prado is running, and a throw, and he's out. The manager is going to. Well, wait a minute. He is managing. How does the manager get thrown out trying to steal third? Lobaton throws him out. Tom Kohler ready to go for the Marlins. Nationals at 94 and 67. They have clinched first round of the National League Division Series home field advantage. Trey Turner, Ben Revere, Bryce Harper, Ryan Zimmerman, Stephen Drew, Wilmer Defoe, Danny Espinosa, Jose Lobaton, and Max Scherzer. And so Tom Kohler, who was matched up against Scherzer when these two teams met just a week and a half ago in South Florida, gets another crack at him. Turner, Revere, and Harper.
Exact home and away splits from Tom Kohler. 4.15 ERA on the road as well as at home.
Turner lifts one foul and out of play.
Looking at the stats there, the 22 home runs, and just watching Tom Kohler, I like how he competes. He's always in there. It was his 34th start. And this is a guy that 33rd start. And he's relentless. Sometimes he does make the mistakes. That 22 home runs puts him about 6th in the league. Giving up.
Turner is a key guy in the postseason for the Nationals. There's no question about it. There are slumping hitters in the Nationals order. Ryan Zimmerman, Bryce Harper, but not Turner. Turner has had just a brilliant, bright 2-month run in which he's put up enormous numbers. Actually, a little over 2 months. And he walks, and he's a threat to run. Marlins defensively brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Xavier Scruggs, Christian Yelich, Destin Hood in the outfield, Justin Bohr, Martin Prado on the corners, D. Gordon, Danny Echeverria up the middle, Tomas Talis is behind home plate, and Prado is managing from third base right now. I'm sure he kicked himself in the shins a few times after getting caught stealing.
He had to have seen something. There must have been a big break. Thought it was a breaking ball.
Do you think the manager may have missed a sign?
Should I go? Yeah, go. 2 outs.
He gave himself the green light. Then Revere. And Turner inching away from first. 32 steals. He's leaning. And Kohler chases him back. Turner has filled so many areas of need for the Nationals. They needed somebody in center. He moved from middle infield out there. They needed a leadoff hitter. Liner to right. Hood has it. But that was a BB off the bat of Ben Revere.
Yeah, Revere nailed that. You were talking about Trey Turner. Just talking about this Nationals team. It's interesting. This guy coming up right now, and Bryce Harper has not been the Bryce Harper of 2015. So the MVP numbers are way off. The batting average, about 100 points off. But that guy there, you talk about a call-up, an unsuspected guy to do what Trey Turner's done in every facet you mentioned. He was an infielder, now he's playing center field. Guy can run, rake. He's my X factor for the Nationals moving forward in the postseason. And what do they get out of Daniel Murphy? You know, you mentioned the opener, you know, possibility getting a pinch hit. Maybe goes ahead DJ LeMahieu. Well, he hasn't played since the 20th. It's 12 days. And then the first bat he's going to have is against Clayton Kershaw on Friday.
Turner runs, big jump. Harper fouls it. He's going after a 1-0 pitch, and the count's 1-1. Turner thinks he has the bag stolen. And now he asks Brian O'Nora, the second base umpire, for confirmation. .32 at 38. Always known for his speed, but man, the Turner's production, his power, the 13 home runs. Hit his 13th yesterday.
Now, if it wasn't for Corey Seager having the year that he's had that out in LA, this is your rookie of the year. Corey Seager's going to win it. Turner's had that kind of season.
He's slugging in the 500s. Harper locked and loaded, and Turner was leaning, and Kohler chased him back. Harper's slugging percentage down at .440. .373 on base. One and two. Of course, his matchup against Tom Kohler. You remember back to that game in which he hit 3 home runs here against Kohler a few years ago. So there is history between the two. That was close.
Each time you throw over and you get a speedy runner like Turner, starting to think about you. You see Davey Lopes over there. What a heck of a base runner he was, and also an excellent base running coach. You saw that little slight bend of the knees. Almost got him.
Leaning again. And running again. Pitches out. Talisa's throw bounces off of Turner and rolls into center field. .33 stolen bases for Trey Turner.
Yeah, you knew it was just a matter of time. He just can't wait to get running. He actually kind of squares a little bit his right foot towards second base. Oh, whether Echeverria thought to deke Turner from not going on to third base. Talise, I thought, had it just faded a little bit. That ball had a little leak toward the second baseman.
Tell you what, at this rate, Trey Turner's going to win some stolen base crowns. He and D. Gordon are going to have a pretty good duel next year if he's here for the whole season. And, you know, having watched what he's done in 72 games, you expect that he is here for good, maybe the next 15 years in Turner.
And it's a great ratio, right? 33 stolen bases. He's caught 8 times.
Yeah, in 70, this is his 73rd game. He's at second, 1 out, 2-2 to Harper. And Bryce Harper strikes out. Good pitch by Tom Kohler.
Really nice changeup. Harper, how about this? What's that, 7th strikeout for the series? 4. He had the golden sombrero on the first night. 2 yesterday. Watch this changeup here. And he was getting a big dose of heaters from the Marlin pitchers. That's a great pitch. Arm action, the late movement, and then of course changeup being 7-8 miles an hour slower.
Here now is Ryan Zimmerman. This is another guy the Nationals would love to see come to life in the postseason. Time called and Kohler steps off. While Prado is in the field as the manager, if there needs to be a visit to the mound or a pitching change or anything like that, Jeff Mathis, his bench coach, will perform that. Until the point, there's a look at Mathis, until the point that Prado is out of the game.
But with the glasses on, Mathis looks like a younger version of Tim Wallach.
He does, like Tim Wallach's little brother.
A little bit. Yeah, you mentioned about Ryan Zimmerman. Listen, I think the postseason is going to be great. There's a lot of compelling stories. So see how it plays out with the wild card today. But Zimmerman just hasn't been able to stay healthy, right? He's had been banged up, but his last 30 games, 186. That's when you start extending slumps or the trend of over 30 games, 100 at bats, and 2 home runs.
And that's we talked about it. Is Zimmerman going to hit? Is Harper going to hit? Is Worth going to hit? Here's the 2-1.
Who's their 2 starter? The guy yesterday.
Boy, if you know the Dodgers have been susceptible to lefties, they face another one today in Matt Moore.
Well, that's right. Like, where's Gio in this depth chart?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is it Gio Gonzalez in game 2? Because you get him to pitch at home where, you know, he's had success. Tanner Roark's a guy that if you pitch him in game 3, that's on the road. He's not a guy that gets really flustered in road games. So maybe you move the lefty into the 2 spot with the Gio.
And I just think that the lefty-righty split against the Dodgers, it's not even close. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I know they're much worse against left-handed pitchers. That's why the Giants went out and got Matt Moore.
Matt Moore has got 2 runs to work with. 2-0 Giants. And that's already headed to the 2nd inning in San Francisco. It's really fun today. If you're following along at home, you've got MLB at Bat on your device, your tablet. Pull up the scoreboard because every game has started. And it's interesting to look around the league, see who has scored first, especially in many of the key games. Baltimore and the Yankees, Dodgers and the Giants, Toronto and Boston, Detroit, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Cleveland, Kansas City. Little pop-up, and it's going to find the seats.
So the combos are what, Rich? That St. Louis has to win, San Francisco has to lose.
Right. And
to push a game tomorrow.
And the tiebreak would be in St. Louis between the Giants and the Cardinals if that happens.
And then this is the interesting, right? Because the Tigers, if they win, Toronto or Baltimore loses, they have to play another game on Monday.
Against Cleveland.
Against Cleveland.
And that game has some significance for Cleveland, by the way. Zimmerman pops it foul, and that's out of play because Cleveland and Boston are coming down to the final days, and they're dueling for home field advantage in their division series. There's actually a scenario, too, that, that Detroit, if it's a 3-way tie, could play 6 games in 6 days in 6 different cities. That one is fouled out. 6. Here's the scenario.
Yep.
All right, they're playing in Atlanta today. They have the makeup game at Cleveland tomorrow. If everything goes their way and it's a 3-way tie, they would play at Toronto on Tuesday. If they lose that game, they would play at Baltimore for the number 2 wild card spot on Wednesday. If they win that game, they'd play Thursday in the wild card game. And if they win that game, they'd play Friday in Texas in the American League Division Series. Roller, Echeverria got the out at first, and Tom Kohler has a scoreless inning in the books. We're underway, and it's scoreless. Today, and you choose from prorated full season plans starting at just $6 a game, half season plans, and 3 great 20-game mini plans. All season ticket plans include entry into Fish Family Loyalty Program. Guarantee access to the All-Star Game and get you a Justin Bour line drive into left center field as well. It's kicked there by Turner. Bour will hold first. And Justin Bour continues to really swing it well since coming back off the disabled list.
Man, he doesn't want the season to end just after all that time off with the ankle injury, come back. He's been hot. Get some more AB somewhere. Go down to Winter League or something. He's feeling that good. Look at this. Especially now with the sun going down a little bit. That sun to shadow. Tough to see the ball, especially off a guy like Scherzer. He's done a heck of a job. How many hits, just even in the last 6-7 games, has he gone to left field?
A lot.
A lot, right?
A lot. That left center gap has been a sweet spot for Bour.
And earlier in the year, didn't most teams play in like major pull?
Extreme shift.
Extreme.
Infield's over. And the odd part is that most teams, when they shifted against Bour, they still pitched him out. And that's when he just started popping balls on a line into left field. Bouncer to third. Drew can't handle it. Fires to first in time. Bour ends up at second.
Super utility Stephen Drew playing little third base. Rendon off this afternoon. Stayed with it. Easily getting scrubs.
Destin Hood now facing Scherzer. Base hit yesterday on a 1-for-4 night. John Tumpane is the home plate umpire. Alan Porter, Brian O'Nora, and Jeff Kellogg are on the bases. So the new tradition of starting every game at the same time. This is year 2 of it. As the regular season closes today, closing day, some call it. And the other tradition, Al, is that the games generally go pretty quickly.
For the teams that are out of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
Hitters,
yeah, it's usually
hitters will swing early in the count. Pitchers.
The 2 or 3 pitch rule.
Now, before the Pitch FX technology, did you pitch any season-ending games where an umpire told you, hey, move it along? Or anything close as a strike?
No, boy, I wish that would have happened, huh, Rich? Just to flip it up there close and I call it a strike. I don't remember pitching like in this scenario, the last game, that didn't matter. For some reason, I remember a couple years with Bobby. I think he gave me the choice that last start. And it's usually you're trying to get the younger guy, some other starter to take a look at.
Hood swings and misses. Lobaton tags him out. Scherzer gets his first strikeout. It's number 279, second strikeout of the ball game.
Yeah, he's a strikeout guy here. You just see how that slider, it stays on plane for about halfway to home plate, and you see Hood once you commit, it's that good. And he's got a little kind of a funky, deceptive delivery. You see kind of how he gets off high, low 3/4 slot. I'll say right now, Rich, with this shade as it gets closer and closer to the pitcher, not easy.
Get your hits early or get your hits late. But you know what? I mean, for the Nationals, they're going to be up against this. Teams all across baseball have to deal with odd start times for television, with the season changing and the days shortening. Puts hitters in the shadows a lot more than the regular season.
Well, how about this? Next Friday, right here, and we're going to see it in about a half hour, will be the start time.
Yeah, for what? Scherzer and Kershaw?
Scherzer, Kershaw.
Talk about fast pace. What you hope for as a hitter are clouds and overcast.
Yeah, see the line right in front of it. Now it's a little it's not bad because they're picking up the white ball and then it gets dark. But by the time it gets that bunting circle, they've already decided whether they're swinging or not. It's like in some of the stadiums, before they turn the lights on, you take batting practice, and it's got shade. It's starting to get dark a little bit, but you got a little sunshine behind it. You can't see.
Skipper Martin Prado. See, that is the managerial pose. Two and two. Two coming. And Scherzer knows he's got Tom Kohler on deck. But he's, yeah, you know what though? Scherzer's such a competitive guy that he's probably thinking if I get him, Kohler leads off the next inning. Threw him a fastball, and it's popped up into the sun. Harper has it, and Miami leaves Bohr at second base. Scoreless.
Welcome back to Nationals Park, where Martin Prado is serving as both a player and a manager today. And for Prado, he said that he was a little caught off guard when Don Mattingly first approached him about the idea.
I was like, man, I don't know if I can do that. I'm too, sometimes I overreact about things. I don't want to be that kind of manager that get tossed in the first inning. So, but it's an honor to be even considered and to be a manager for a day. Everybody's excited, and I'm excited.
And when we asked Don Mattingly, hey, how do you think Prado will do as manager? He said he will be fantastic. Martin Prado can do anything. Guys.
Well, if you are just joining us, that's a great stuff from Prado. The ground rules here for Prado, according to Mattingly. Now, Prado started the day with a .304 average, and Mattingly wanted to give him an opportunity to improve on that. but not detract from it. And the first pitch to Drew is ball 1. So he told Prado, look, you're going to manage from the field until you get an offer. If you get a hit, you stay in, and he got a hit his first at bat, so that's why he's still at third base and managing from there. Jeff Mathis is running things. The irony is when Prado was thrown out trying to steal third, there's a look at Mattingly. Mathis was on the phone to Pat Shine in the replay room, and that's Tim Wallach's job, who's the bench coach, and so Mathis is doing that. So the players, Prado and Mathis, are running the game, and they control the replays and the challenges as well. And Kohler loses Drew, and that opens up the second inning.
Both innings, Tom Kohler led off the game with Trey Turner, walked him. Just create offense for the opposing team. On his own, let him earn it.
Just a quick glance at some of those key games that are off and running like every other game in baseball. The Tigers have fallen behind Atlanta 1-0. That's the last game at Turner Field. Atlanta 1-0 in the second. Detroit needs that win to keep postseason hopes alive. Giants 2-0 over the Dodgers, bottom of the second. There's a look at that. Buster Posey knocked in a couple.
Orioles up 1-0 over the Yankees, bottom of the third.
Bottom third, 1-0. Baltimore 88 wins. Toronto at 88 wins. They're scoreless in Boston, top second. Seattle was eliminated last night in a dramatic game with a lot of comebacks and big hits. Oakland beat them in extra innings. St. Louis and Pittsburgh are scoreless, bottom 2.
How about the Orioles loss last night? Right? Gave up 4 in the 8th. Comeback win from the Yanks. That hurt him.
And you were talking about the Dodgers as well. The Giants shut the Dodgers out last night. Ty Block, 8 shutout innings to beat Kershaw and the Dodgers. Giants have clinched a tie for the second wild card spot with that.
A lefty Ty Block, right?
Yeah, that's that theme that you've been on.
I'm telling you.
Dodgers versus lefties, no bueno. Wilmer Defoe. And right now, Tom Kohler is having trouble finding home plate.
Yeah, just either overthrowing or pulling off a little bit, looks to be.
Juan Nieves is on his way out. Three walks for Kohler, 1 strikeout here in Washington, D.C.
Be able to repeat a delivery. Tom Kohler, even for the month of September, 23 third innings, 14 walks, leading up to now 3 walks in this outing, not even 2 innings.
Minnesota has a 1-0 lead over the White Sox. Now that game meaningless as far as anything. But Byron Buxton apparently has an inside the park homer and got it from home plate around the bases back to home plate in 14 seconds flat. And I've been told by my producer John Solster that's the fastest time in the StatCast era. In 50 years, when a couple guys like you and I are calling a game, do you think we're going to refer to the year 2016 as the StatCast era? You know, there's the dead ball era. There's the high mound era.
steroids, right?
Yeah. That's
well, yes, right. We use StatCast. It's pretty cool to hear stats and numbers like that. I like some of the metric style that they're using, and this is where we are, right? If you get more information, some of it relevant, maybe not so much others.
I don't know if the nickname is going to travel that way. Yeah. I'm with you.
Did Major League Baseball, were they up to broke a season high for career for total home runs for the sport? I think they were pushing up on it.
I do not know.
So home runs, most strikeouts. Obvious trend.
Danny Espinosa at the plate. Stephen Drew at second. Defoe at first. And Tom Kohler trying to figure out how to throw strikes right now. He's kind of lost his touch. 2 walks to open up this inning.
That's a good pitch right there. You get back in it. If you overthrow a little bit, just looks like to me is just trying to throw it harder than you can, and then what happens? You pull your head, you pull off a little bit. Watch this right here. This is slow it down. Great changeup. You saw a few of those. Kind of jumps at the hitter a little bit. He's got that quick leg kick and then a little bit of jump. Smooth, consistent delivery allows you to be in position for a consistent release point.
Towards 3-2. Marlins have plenty of arms to turn to. A 5-inning start from Wei-Yin Chen yesterday. Dustin McGowan, Fernando Rodney, and David Phelps all pitched an inning. So the bullpen is relatively rested and well stocked. 16 relievers down there. Well, you don't see this very often. Tom Kohler has walked the bases loaded. Drew, Defoe, and Espinosa. And Miami's bullpen is starting to scurry around.
Yeah, this is where one of those moments where you realize, obviously, lead off walk, and then you get behind, you walk the next guy. Then you start, your sights get really large, and actually it works in reverse. You still got to keep it small. Pick up your target. Trust it. Middle of the plate, down in the zone. Trust your defense.
That one fouled back to the screen. Now, see, everybody's helping out. Miguel Rojas working the phone. So Prado has a full coaching staff in there. I saw Chris Johnson had a clipboard. Johnson was working the clipboard. And so Rojas has called the pen. And Kohler misses down low with a fastball. And you've got Lobaton, who's been thrusted all of a sudden into a very prominent role moving forward for the Nationals. With no Wilson Ramos, it's he and Pedro Severino. Two very good defensive catchers. So while the Nationals, who are trying to stimulate some offense, would like some offense, I think the pitchers with Severino and Lobaton, and pitching coach Mike Maddox, feel they're in pretty good hands defensively. 1-2 pitch to center. Yelich shading the sun, backing up, makes the catch. Everybody tags. And the Nationals have a run.
Well, talking about Lobaton, really the silver lining is that the guys like pitching to him. There's no doubt about it. Wilson Ramos offensively one of the best hitting catchers, but if they could get good defense out of Lobaton, enough offense picked up from somewhere, the other guys, certainly Bryce Harper comes to mind.
Here's Scherzer now. He tries to bunt. Bohr was crashing from first. It's that first and third bunt situation. Prado held third. See, Prado doesn't even have to look into the dugout to get the signs for the bunt coverage.
I tell you what, you got the pitcher up, he's bunting. You're trying to throw something, preferably up in the zone hard, because it's usually a bunt that's harder to deaden. I'm thinking double play here. You're going second to first. A chance to get out of this. No bunt.
No bunt, no swing, but a strike.
Bad for American League pitcher, right?
No,
62.
You're right. Kohler, I think, with those throws to first, just trying to see if Scherzer will tip his hand and maybe flinch and square a little bit with movement.
You don't throw it as hard. That's like a quick snap throw. You're very deliberate when you're trying to see if a guy's bunted or not. You kind of slow it all down.
Ball in the dirt. Talise gets a piece, and Espinosa arrives at second.
Yeah, the curveball in the dirt just kicks away. See Espinosa immediately getting on his horse. Well, double play out of the order now.
Three walks, a sacrifice fly, and a wild pitch. Infield's in, and Kohler misses up. Justin Nicolino is up in Miami's bullpen. Scherzer into center field. That's a hit. Defoe scores. Espinosa to the plate. He is safe. Yelich's throw is on the money.
Tell us was well, they're going to take a look at it.
Now, Jeff Mathis, Marlins bench coach, has given the sign the Marlins want to challenge the play at the plate.
Well, I couldn't tell there, could you? Yeah, this is a good shot.
Well, I don't know. Did his foot bounce up?
I don't know.
That's really close.
I mean, does he get it on the? Does he tag him on the shin before that foot gets down on the plate? Right there.
I don't know if there's enough to overturn there. The initial call is so important. The initial call was out.
Well, not from what we saw there. That was not.
Or excuse me. The initial call was safe. So overturning that's going to be really tough. That foot, it looked like, was down before the glove got to the shin.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Thomas did a nice job because, you know, catchers aren't allowed to block home plate. He really got that left shin guard kind of over toward right in front of home, but just couldn't get the tag down soon enough. I think he was safe.
So the Marlins have lost their challenge. Call confirmed, so it's not a stance. They confirmed the call.
Boy, that hurts you. Walk 3 guys, and then the pitcher gets 2 RBI single up the middle. See that knee comes down? Yeah.
2-run single by Max Scherzer. And remember, the first 3 hitters Kohler walked, and they've all scored.
Everybody got your
See Max there turning corner, single up the middle.
Of course, Scherzer is unique, and he's got different color eyes. Heterochromatic. Ball in the dirt. Scherzer feeling lucky, and he's out. That's the way he plays the game, though. You know,
yeah,
that's how he pitches. That's how he plays, and they love it here.
You don't see that often for a pitcher to be scooting out a ball just not far away from the catcher. Also, too, you got to be careful. I mean, that's your ace. That's the high throw, tag almost. I'll tell you what, D. Gordon could have did a number on him if he tagged him on the face.
It's a short. Echeverria on to first in time. 3 walks and they all score, and a 3-0 Nationals lead.
Let's do it.
Look at the major league leaders, all of the categories. How about the year Mark Trumbo was at? You think Seattle regrets that trade? Nolan Arenado, a big year. Rick Porcello is your Cy Young winner in the American League. Your pick, Al.
Yes. How about Kyle Hendricks?
And we told you earlier about that play in the Twins-White Sox game. Byron Buxton. Here it is. Byron Buxton.
Of course, he's hit in the bottom of the order.
Dick Bremer with the call.
And the first pitch hit high and deep to center. Going back is Garcia. Going around and back and not able to make the play. Buxton around second. He'll go to third.
What did you say, 14
He's
seconds?
around, and Byron Buxton has hit an inside the park home run on the first pitch of the game.
14.0. It's the fastest from home plate to home plate in the StatCast era. He can run. Tom Cole or D. Gordon, Tomas Talis against Scherzer.
I wonder what like Ricky Henderson or one of those guys in their prime. Timmy Rock Raines or Vince Coleman. They done 14 seconds.
Hand timed, but I guess you could time it just watching videotape, right? Yeah.
Right. Cue up the video.
The problem is you rarely get a chance to do it. I mean, the inside the park home run is so rare. You know, if we and it's the last game of the year, so I don't know if we're able to do this, but I'm thinking about inside the park home runs in Marlins history, and the guy you would want to time was Emilio Bonifacio. I believe it was against the Nationals on an opening day, 08-ish, 09-ish, 07.
I thought you were going to say Louis Castillo. He would have been another one. Not as fast as Bonifacio.
Louis a better base stealer, Bonifacio a faster man. That's how I would go with that. Here's Gordon. And now D. Gordon had an inside the Parker as well. Bonifacio was 09. Gordon
this year?
No, I believe it was last year. That one foul. You know what we could do, Al? We have a look. Our crack staff is spread out all across baseball, right? I'll bet you there's somebody at home who has the MLB at bat and is able to pull up the archived game and get your stopwatch on your phone and time Gordon's inside the park and go back to 09 opening day maybe and see if you can time Bonifacio.
Let's see what you're doing.
JT Realmuto last year hit a home run out of the park and then had an inside the park in the same game. Nice play, Zimmerman, but not in time to get D. Gordon, who scampers by first with a hit.
Ryan Zimmerman, did he go a long way here? Let's see where he's 1, 2. No, he just kept carrying himself, and that's a tough throw. Running toward right field and then trying to make a throw back with a pitcher who's on the run. And then, oh, by the way, the speed of D. Gordon, no chance.
That's
1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's,
yeah. Former third baseman, former shortstop at University of Virginia. Here is Talis, who hit a deep fly ball out to center.
Did Zimmerman pitch as well?
Now that I don't know.
I know they've got UVA has had a few two-way players.
I know Zimmerman was the 4th overall pick in 05. Spent maybe a month in the minor leagues out of University of Virginia, and then
Nationals first rounder, right?
Yep, and then was playing with the Nationals that year. Gordon runs, great jump, and a nifty slide underneath Espinoza. 30 bags for D. Gordon.
How about that? You mentioned Trey Turner and D. Gordon, a full year of D. What did he have? Did he have
D. Gordon has
last year?
Yeah, he's led the National League of Stolen Bases the last 2 years.
Last 2 years.
As a Dodger in 14 and as a Marlin in 15. And Talis with a chance to get Miami on the board here.
Jonathan VR is leading
with Milwaukee.
All of baseball. Yeah, Milwaukee 61 stolen bases. Billy Hamilton's got 58.
One and 2 to Tomas Talis. Martin Prado is on deck.
D had 58 last year to lead all of baseball.
Player manager Martin Prado is on deck.
The inside move. Just keep your runner from not getting a huge secondary lead. Base hit, hard base hit to the outfield. Even with the speed of D. Gordon, keep him close.
Here, John Tempane, the home plate umpire. Ball in.
Not quite the Jim Joyce calls, but I like it.
Jim Joyce.
He's got the best.
Yes, he does.
That's old school.
Two pitch. Little jam shot. Drew. Gordon's going to take third. And Talise is thrown out. There's 2 outs. I'll give you Jim Joyce for strike 1 and strike 2, which generally start. But Tom Hallion's called strike 3 is the best. That's where Hallion literally tears himself in 2 and spins around, much like the Naked Gun Leslie Nielsen umpiring performance, the Enrico Palazzo game, as it's known now, the Enrico Palazzo game.
Boy, that was kind of lost, right, over the years. The more theatrical calls.
The personality.
Personality.
See, I think if you do go to a robot umpire, maybe you could program in some personality and give them the Dutch Rennert call, give them the Tom Hallion strike 3 call. Big tall robot for Tim McClellan, lefty for Ken Kaiser.
McClellan was the worst for this, right? How long it took him to.
Yes.
He was Leslie Nielsen. When they called the pitch and he looked at everybody and goes, well, what was it? Strike? We'll let everybody know.
Now Prado needs a hit to stay in the game. He got one his first at bat, and he lines it to Defoe. He was thinking he'd get another few innings out of that swing. 3-0 Nationals. Ram is the presenting sponsor of Miami Marlins baseball. Making friends and getting votes. All right, Marlins coaching staff. You've got manager Martin Prado. Miguel Rojas and Chris Johnson are two of his coaches. Jeff Mathis is his bench coach. And Don Mattingly said, all right, you can stay in for as long as you get a hit. If you have an offer, you're coming out. He had a base hit his first time up, line drive out, so Prado is out. Derek Dietrich is in at third, and now Prado will assume his role as no longer player manager, but just straight manager. Tom Kohler will try to dial in the control. He's walked 4. 3 of the 4 have scored. Revere, Harper, and Zimmerman. All right, Al Leiter, veteran of how many years? 17 years?
Yeah.
17 years in the big leagues. Also a longtime broadcaster for the Yankees, MLB Network, and now Marlins Television. Highly decorated major leaguer. All-around good guy. I want your impression on DJ LeMahieu. Because LeMahieu, by fractions of points, leading Daniel Murphy in the batting race, and the Rockies in 4 of the last 5 games have had him on the bench to protect his average. They did give him 1 start, but when he was 0 for 2 and got down to the narrow margin next to Murphy, they yanked him out of the game. He's not in the game today for the Rockies.
The fact that you said 4 of the last 5 games of the season that you have a guy with the best batting average, you see the comparison numbers just barely higher. That's, I think it's kind of lame.
Well,
I almost see it this last day maybe, if you were, but over the last 5 games, 4 of the 5 he's not playing.
And the 1 game he did play, they had him in there, and once he went 0 for 2 and he came down where an 0 for 3 would have lowered him below Murphy, they yanked him out of the game. That's a big chunk. That's 5 days.
Well, so how would you feel today? I get today. You're the batting title champ. You've
I
played
understand
up to
today.
this point. You have a chance of losing it. It does matter. You know, you will go down as the batting king for National League. But to have not played in 4 or 5 games, I think that's just a little cheesy.
Well, and Dusty Baker's not real happy about it. And Dusty Baker before the game indicated that he might give Murphy a pinch hit appearance late in this ball game. And with 1 hit, Murphy would go over LeMahieu. So you wonder if the Rockies are watching this game and monitoring to see if Murphy pops up as a pinch hitter and gets a hit. Would they throw LeMahieu out there as a pinch hitter?
Without question. Wouldn't you? I mean, if you're trying to protect it for the last 5 games?
Well, look, I wouldn't protect him for 5 games. I would have had him in there this week.
That was the problem.
And, of course, news today also that Walt Weiss will not be retained as manager of the Rockies.
Well, that's a tough place, right? I mean, look, just every year it seems like we talk about the same thing. Look at it. I mean, if Nolan Arenado was on, if it was a playoff contending team, he's your MVP.
I agree.
Home runs, RBIs. I mean, just offensively.
Harper pulls it foul, but I will give them this. Now, it's a great place for batting champions. Do you realize if LeMahieu wins, he'll be the 8th different Rocky in 18 years to win a batting title. So the last 18 years, 8 have been Rockies that have won the title. You've got Morneau, Kadire, Cargo, Holiday, Larry Walker in 01, Todd Helton in 2000, and then Larry Walker won in 99 and 98. That is right down the middle. And Harper looking for something other than that. Tom Kohler seems to have straightened himself out.
I have not seen Bryce Harper now 3 consecutive days look as poorly as he has at the plate. That is a 3-2 fastball down the middle. I don't know what he could be looking for. Obviously not that, so I guess off speed, 3-2.
Here now is Zimmerman.
Eight strikeouts in 9 at-bats. 10 plate appearances. He was intentionally walked yesterday.
Zimmerman left field, dive, and Scruggs can't get it on his feet. Xavier Scruggs.
Well, he got to it. I want to see how this popped out. I thought that ball was for sure cutting the upper edge. It's a line drive, and you see it sinking. He caught it, and the glove banging down on the ground popped it loose. Watch this. He's got it tracked in the glove and pops out. That would have been a heck of a play. Just couldn't hold on to it. Good effort from Xavier Scruggs.
And so that gets an at-bat for Stephen Drew here, and a base hit for Zimmerman. So that's something to watch for the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning of this ball game. If Dusty Baker does give Daniel Murphy, who's been taking swings, he can swing the bat well. The worry is running with the injury, the glutes or the buttocks, whatever you want to call it. That's what's kept Murphy on the shelf for, what, 10 days or so?
12. His last game was on the 20th.
Fan Fest in February. 2 days of player meet and greets, autograph sessions, interactive games, all kinds of fun. You can pick out seats for the All-Star season coming up at Marlins Park. Go to marlins.com/fanfest. Three and one to Drew. Yelich out in sunny right center. Makes the catch. Nationals done in the 3rd. To the 4th, 3-0 Washington.
Willie Mays, have you tried the new Gillette Super Blue Blade?
Say, hey, I've been talking up ever since.
That's my boy. Just try that Super Blue Blade once, and you'll get the real inside on shaving speed and comfort that, believe me, you just can't touch.
And clean, man, clean.
That's for sure, Willie. And you get such comfort you scarcely know you're shaving. Super Blue Blade edges are new, brand.
Oh, that's funny.
That's awesome. Very way to go in the truck. John Sulzer, our producer, finding that one. Vin Scully. We do have our Vin Scully pins on.
Yes.
This is his last broadcast of the Dodgers and Giants today in San Francisco.
Gonna miss him.
Absolutely.
At some point you got to retire. 67 years. Amazing.
Long time. Yelich. I wish
you have a favorite call.
You know, for me, the favorite thing is just listening to him tell a story, and he's got that, you know, that all those resources. Like if he were doing this Yelich at bat, he would talk about Yelich's grandfather, who played for the Rams, invented the face mask, designed the logo, and he swings and misses. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he
weaves it in and out.
And weaves it in and out.
That is true. What you said?
Oh yeah, it is. It is. Look at the resume of Vin Scully, and of course the national voice of baseball for so long. And I've always said that call of Aaron 7:15. If you can Google it and listen to it, listen to the entire 2.5 minutes. The call, laying out, letting the crowd go, and then when he summarized the moment and stated the significance of Aaron's home run to baseball, to America, to race relations, all of that. Just really powerful stuff. Here is Justin Bohr. See, now if Vin were here, he would launch into Justin Bohr's father working in the Secret Service. As a lad, Justin, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he'd roll right through it.
The voices that you connect with, right? It's mostly when you were a kid. As you grow up in the sport.
And the thing that made, I think, I mean, look, Scully's impressive. He's the best that has ever been. But growing up and listening to baseball, oftentimes it's regional voices. So you grew up in the Northeast. So who was your guy? Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy. Okay. Those
Frank Besser.
If you grew up in Los Angeles, it was Vin Scully. Maybe it was Dick Enberg if you were an Angels fan. St. Louis, obviously, Jack Buck. Minnesota, Herb Carneal. Seattle, Dave Niehaus. San Francisco Bay Area, Hank Greenwald, Bill King.
Did Michaels do that?
Michaels was there, but not long enough to be, you know, considered a long-time voice. Bohr walks. And of course, Scully's been in it so long now that everybody knows his work, and he had so much exposure on a national level.
For me, it's got to be Billy Buckner. Throw the legs, Billy.
Little roller up along first.
And then I don't believe what I just saw.
No, that was Jack Buck.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that wasn't Buck.
Wasn't it?
Vin Scully didn't do the.
Vin Scully said. It was the same home run, right? The Gibson home run?
Yes. That's right, Jack Buck.
Buck had the radio call. Scully had the television call. And I'll let you hear, actually, our production team will let you hear Scully's call momentarily. With Bohr at first. And Scruggs against Scherzer.
You got something for Scruggs for me? His dad?
Xavier Scruggs, as a lad, was a circus performer. Juggling chainsaws. No, I don't. It's fastball. And it would be, here's the 0-1. It's inside. And then he would move on to the, you know, read the rest of the story. 1-2. And one of the cool things about growing up in California is that the Dodgers broadcasts were on a big radio station. So in much of California, you could hear them. I worked in Las Vegas for 3 years doing AAA games. You could hear Scully's call at night. Two. I'll never forget when I arrived in the Pacific Coast League, where Las Vegas was, of the broadcasters in the Coast League, many of who are now Ken Korak, Matt Vasgersian, Mario Impemba, guys that are in the major leagues. There were others in the league, and there were like 2 or 3 guys that sounded just like Vin Scully because they'd grown up listening to Scully, and they had the same inflections and stuff.
Trying to copy, or just
I don't know. I don't know. But that always struck me as interesting. All right, here's that famous Gibson home run for you. Oh, we didn't get a tagline there, did we? The tagline is, in the year of the improbable, the impossible has happened.
Oh, that was his, yeah. In the year of the improbable, the impossible has happened. How about the layout there? Of course.
Yes, you have to do that. I mean, that's such a huge moment. Right center field. That one's well hit from Destin Hood, and it's deep, and it's off the top of the wall. It is not gone, is it? One umpire says no homer. Hood has arrived at third. Boras crossed the plate. Now Hood stops at third. The umpires are going to get together. The first base umpire, Alan Porter. Martin Prado is out to argue.
Porter was given like the safe sign, like it was still in play.
Right. There was no umpire made a home run sign.
Nope.
In the balance is the first major league home run for Destin Hood. Now the umpires can go to replay on their own here. And I think that's what they're going to do. That's a tough call for an umpire, that right center field fence here. But look at manager Martin Prado.
So above the green, does it have to go above that railing?
It's the green. It looks like it hits behind it, though.
So if it hits the front of the green and it pops back, it's not a home run. See right there, it goes behind it, right?
Yes. You lose sight of the ball right there. That's a home run. The ball's gone behind the green.
You know, it hit the little
fence behind it.
No, this
rail
right here, right?
There's a side look. So this is going to be a home run, and it is. How about that? First major league home run for Destin Hood, and it's against Max Scherzer. How about that?
Brand name.
How about that?
Power there from Hood. Right field. Stayed on it.
How about the work by Martin Prado to get out there, talk to the umpires, get them to review it? And D has the baseball as well, because remember, it came back into play. And so the Marlins have a couple of runs. And here's Echeverria against Scherzer. That's a big moment for that young man. A man who turned down Nick Saban and a full-ride football scholarship at Alabama to play the sport he loved. It took him a while to get here, but he's enjoyed his time in the big leagues with the Marlins here over the last month, and that's a really cool moment.
Mom, I got my first big league home run against Max Scherzer. I mean, you couldn't get any more brand name than this. You might be the Cy Young Award winner.
And when someone asks him about that, even Barry Bonds is liking this. Someone's going to ask him about it in 20, 30 years. His son, maybe in 40 years, a grandchild, whatever. And they're going to ask, hey, what was it like running around the bases? And he's going to say, you know what? I had to stop at third. It was a review. But I'm sure he still felt, I mean, he's pretty confident he has the homer at that point, right? So a good moment for this team to share. One, two. There's D. Gordon with the ball. Throws it off the net. Echeverria line drive right to Drew at third. But Miami gets two in a big moment for young Destin Hood. Hood homering to right center off of Max Scherzer to make it 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the
Baseball, Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Ram. Get power you can depend on at Ram Power Days. And by Checkers, fast foodies know the deal. I should have read those as Vin Scully, right?
Next one.
Next billboards I will read as Vin Scully. Maybe partying Vin Scully. Which I'm sure there will be one for his last broadcast today. Tom Kohler back to work. It's a one-run game. It's 3-2. Washington on top. If you're just happening by, the Marlins and Nationals are finishing off the regular season. Martin Prado is managing this game for the Marlins. Jeff Mathis is his bench coach. So far, we've determined that Chris Johnson and Miguel Rojas are also on that coaching staff. Etch spinning. Oh, safe at first. Difo has a lot of speed. Echeverria, terrific effort.
He's got to win a Gold Glove sooner.
See Rojas on the phone. The Marlins have lost their challenge, by the way. But Rojas just wants to know.
I mean, look at this, just to get to it. Difo's got speed up the line, but I want to play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And made it close. No, he didn't get it.
So Difo with the leadoff hit here in the fourth. Very managerial. You see that? You have Prado, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding his expression. And then you have Mathis behind him giving out the defensive sign. There it is, Mathis giving signs. See, look, if you're going to be a manager or a coach, you've got to wear sunglasses, right?
And the coat, he's got the coat on.
And the quarter zip coat that Mathis is in. Runner goes, Talisa's throw. On the bag, is he out? Now the Marlins don't have a challenge. The Marlins don't have a challenge. Echeverria's pointing in the dugout.
Well, they used the challenge right early on. You know when Echeverria immediately pointed, but they used their challenge and they lost. Missed the tag. He's off.
Got him on the foot before he went there, but the Marlins can't challenge. They can call as much as they'd like, and you see that Mathis, he knows no challenge, and so he is safe. Meanwhile, there's the whole staff on the far right. Don Mattingly kind of down in the dugout, letting Prado run things. And then Kohler walks Espinoza. And here comes Martin Prado. And Prado may make a move here. Gonna go to the lefty. And so Kohler exits. Prado makes the pitching change. And a 3-2 Nationals lead. Nobody out. Tom Kohler out of the game. This copyright telecast presented by the authority of the Marlins may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. Accounts and descriptions of the game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Marlins. And so here is Justin Nicolino.
Yeah, that 5 ERA. You look right at the hits, 95 hits in 78 innings. Certainly a building block year for Justin Nicolino.
Of those 17 appearances, 13 have been starts with the Marlins. 2-6, a 5.48 as a starter. In AAA, 14 starts, 7-6, a 4.13. Bunt to Lease to first in time. D. Gordon and Alan Porter had a close encounter there behind Bohr. Porter, the first base umpire.
Well, ends up serving as a sacrifice, but I thought Lobaton laid it down late. This was not turn around and give yourself up. I mean, it was, well, he was just trying to deaden it right down the first base line. Now that's a straight sack.
It's not often you have the 8-hitter sacrifice 2 guys up for the pitcher, but Scherzer did single his last time up. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was trying to bunt for hit, but he turned early. I don't either.
Guess what? Scherzer again. Well, that's why he bunted.
Wow. Yeah, it's insult to injury there. 2 hits.
He's
4
knocked in
RBIs for the pitcher.
Boy, have a day.
Infield in, you got to preserve it. That helps every hitter. Just past Nicolino, and then again, infield way in. You see Echeverria, no shot. Four RBIs in the day. How many RBIs do you have on the year?
Watch this, though. You got to think Dusty Baker kind of held his breath as he saw Scherzer try to stop and then lose his footing.
But see, I mean, Yelich's the ball kicks away, and he wanted to get to second base.
Yeah, he did. That's who he is. So he's got a dozen. Wainwright, 16 runs driven in this year. So it's 5-2. Washington on top. You got Trey Turner now with Scherzer at first, and the whole dugout is telling Scherzer, calm down. They're telling him, just calm down over there. Of course, we saw Scherzer last time he was at first go to second on a ball in the dirt. I mean, the Nationals have only 4 hits, and Scherzer has half.
4 RBIs.
It's amazing. Did you have an RBI?
No, I know. I was terrible, but I think I had an RBI. I had a triple. I had a ground rule double, too. Pretty sure I had it. I had that an RBI.
No home runs, though.
No. Closest.
16 RBIs.
16 RBIs. I had a hit in the World Series. Double. Left field. Game 4, 1993 in Philadelphia.
I think we played that earlier in the year. I think we had that on the show. Juan Nieves is still the acting pitching coach. And he and Nicolino have conference there. End of the year music video. Big moments, lighter moments, and of course a tribute to Jose Fernandez. That is after Marlins Live post-game show, so hang with us, set the DVR. We'll come back to the ballgame. Here's Revere, runners first and second. Up the middle, might be 2. Gordon Echeverria on to first, and that's a double play. Max Scherzer knocks in 2 more and makes it 5-2. for Major League Baseball's postseason, where all that matters is October. The National League Division Series starts October 7th on FS1, and it will start right here at Nationals Park. Dodgers and Nationals. 5-2. Nationals on top of the Marlins. Let's check in with Jessica Blaylock. Hi, Jess.
Hey, Rich, it's been a week since the tragic passing of Jose Fernandez, and over the past 7 days, the Marlins have done such an incredible job honoring his memory, but no moment was more beautiful than D. Gordon's home run on Monday night against the Mets, and Major League Baseball agrees. They sent out a tweet saying that D captured the moment of the season, and guys, we were there for that home run. It is so hard to describe what the atmosphere was like at Marlins Park. Such an emotional release, not only for D and the Marlins, but for fans around Major League Baseball as well.
Yeah, and you know, I love the message on the board in the weight room here from the Arizona Diamondbacks, stating that the same thing. I think the message was D. Gordon hit the most important home run of 2016. Here's Ichiro, pinch a penny pinch hitter, and Scherzer's fastball down around his feet, and it's 2-0. This is the pitcher spot, so Nicolino's day is done. And Ichiro a cut at a 2-0 fastball. Marlins have an option on Ichiro's contract next year. He wants to play. It sounds like the Marlins like him a lot, so I think there's a pretty good chance that Ichiro is back next year. 2-2.
Ichiro can do so many things well still, even in his 40s. You talk about a guy that just fundamentally sound. Watching him come out even today, last day of the season.
That one rifled into right field and a base hit in a really nice way to finish 2016, the year where he gets his 3,000th hit. If this is his last at bat, that's typical of what the Marlins saw this year, Al. Crisp line drives, sharp ground balls.
Just sweet, right? I mean, how many years we've been watching as fans of this guy. 95th home run, or 95th hit on the season.
All-time leaders. Ichiro is 25th, and he's still 23 away from Rod Carew. So something to shoot for next year. Gordon bunts, sets it down. Scherzer bare hands, fires to first in time to get the out. They're actually going to score it as a sacrifice, but Gordon was obviously bunting for a hit. Here's Tomas Telis. Ichiro at second. Miami's down 3. Scherzer working here in the 5th. Letter high fastball for a strike. Games of interest. Baltimore has opened up a 5-1 lead in New York. That's good news in the Beltway. San Francisco 5-1 over the Dodgers. That's not such good news to the Cardinals. That's bottom of the 5th in San Francisco. 5-1 Giants as they try to nail down the number 2 spot in the wild card. Telis unloads. Turner's back at the wall. That one's gone. Tomas Telis. A homer to right center. First home run of Tomas Telis' career. Destin Hood got his. You know what? It's just great to see and hear that group have fun after the week they've had. I love the fact that, and there's the ball. I love the fact that Prado's on the top step and he greets everyone like the manager. Even patting Ichiro on the back, saying, "Way to go, Ichi." And there he is. He's got his team back within a run. All right, outliner. How long, if you're Dusty Baker?
This is it.
Is Scherzer in there?
This is it. They were trying to get him 20. You know, that the 4 RBIs by Scherzer. This is a 5-4 game, but no, I think it was all along to get him through 5 innings. Great tune-up. You don't want him to, you know, obviously you don't want him to get hurt. You don't want him to overdo it. He's going to have his normal 4 days off for Friday's start against the Dodgers here.
Dietrich slices one into left field, and that's a base hit. His first at bat. And getting through this 5th inning for Scherzer right now, getting a little bit tougher. I think the Nationals bullpen, you can see a few guys starting to move around. 24 pitches in the 4th. And were it not for Scherzer at the plate, he'd be down in this game 4-1. He's knocked in 4 runs with 2 run-scoring singles. Here's Yelich, who was singled and struck out. That pitch out. You can see Yelich grimace. Changeup, and it's blistered down that right field line. Dietrich racing for 3rd. Into the corner is Harper. Here comes Dietrich to the plate, and he will score. Yelich ends up at 3rd. That's an RBI for Yelich. He's at 98 now, and he's 2 for 3 in the ball game. And the Marlins have tied it 5-5, and number 20 for Scherzer is certainly in doubt.
Hey, nice focus.
Wow. Another hanging changeup up. He scolds this ball. Middle of the plate. Turns on it. You see Scherzer's reaction. This is a changeup poorly located. That ball got to the fence quickly. Eddie Harris, aggressive, making the turn. Dietrich easily scored.
Yelich is going to get a double on it.
That ball kicks away from the catcher. You see Yelich being able to get to 3rd base because of it.
And so Yelich at 2 for 3.
Where does that put him?
That puts Yelich at 297. How about that?
So what's he? Came in 294, right?
He's 2 for 3, came in at 294, and Scherzer, some difficulty there. They're trying to walk Justin Bour intentionally. Wow. He does not like to. I mean, this is not something he's used to, it looks like.
I mean, he's just lobbing it. Yeah, I wonder how many times Scherzer's had to intentionally walk somebody. From the looks of that, Rich, not too many. Well, you're especially conscious with a runner at 3rd base. Oh, a 2nd time this year. 11 career intentional walks.
So the best made plans of Dusty Baker aren't working out right now. Scherzer certainly helped himself at the plate, driving in 4 himself. But Dusty Baker wanted to give him a shot at 20 wins. Obviously, as a starting pitcher, he's got to get through 5, and now he doesn't even have the lead. Of course, Scherzer, you can see the dirt all over him. That's from his 2 adventures on the base paths. Breaking ball, a strike to Scruggs. And Xavier Scruggs has a home run on the season. Chance to get Miami a lead if he can put it in play and avoid a double play.
Scherzer, you want to feel good about this last start. I know he's had a terrific year. 4 days later, first game of the division series. In the last 2 innings, giving up 5 runs.
By the way, they've just changed the double to a triple for Yelich. And the official score has. And Scruggs couldn't hold up. That's a big strikeout for Scherzer. And here comes Hood, who homered his last time up. It's funny, Don Mattingly going into the game yesterday said, I want to get some of the younger guys a full game, some starts. JT Realmuto, he said, maybe a pinch hit, but he's pretty much done for the year. Ichiro only as a pinch hitter. Stanton only as a pinch hitter. He wanted to get Hood and Scruggs and Talise an opportunity to start a game and play a whole game. As it turns out, his best offense has come from Tomas Talise and Destin Hood. They both have hit their first major league homers, and both are 2-run shots.
That's great.
Hood homer to right center. Talise hit his a little further out towards center field, but still on the first base side of dead center.
Making them work. Ruined the plans. The Marlins did. They can hit. I mean, you're talking about Talise's home run and first one in his career. Hood. Marlin hitters. You look at their lineup. These guys can barrel it up.
Ball in the dirt. Is it just me, or does Martin Prado have all the mannerisms of a manager down
already, right?
From the pitching change he made to just standing there with the lineup card.
Well, he's got a few more years in him, but I think he's saying, oh, I kind of like this.
He was concerned he might get thrown out in the first inning. As emotional as he gets sometimes. He's got his bench coach with him. Prado, who met the press as the manager before the game, said that when they asked him about, well, you're playing third, what happens if you have to do something for the field? He says, I have a future manager as my bench coach, and that's Jeff Mathis. And there's Mathis in the picture. Hood hanging tough. Scherzer 2-2 coming. Fastball got him at 94. The Marlins tie it up. Tomas Talise, first in the big leagues. 5-5. Ram is the presenting sponsor of Miami Marlins baseball. Look at that shot from the World War II Memorial all the way down to the Lincoln Memorial. Across the bridge up there, you're into Arlington.
Visited like all the spots.
I have. I have this trip, no, because with all the stuff that's been going on, I did go for a nice run along the water towards Arlington. But yeah, just terrific stuff. One of my favorite is the Korean War Memorial. It's not one that is famous, but it is maybe one of the most poignant of all the memorials, and visually so. Austin Bryce into the game. Austin Bryce meet Bryce Harper. And that's fouled at the plate. This is a fun day. Watching Martin Prado manage, employing teammates as his staff, his coaching staff. Prado did chat with some of the other coaches, asking them if, you know, I think he and Perry Hill chatted, hey, you know, Perry, I need you out first base today. Lenny, are you good for third? Rojas is assisting. Juan Nieves is like the only guy in the dugout who's working right now, right? Of the staff. He and Prado conferring, I'm sure, on what's up the rest of the game. 0-2. Harper reaches out and lines it down the left field line. And around first he goes, on his way to second. And that's got to be a relief to Harper and everybody here. He had struck out 8 times in this 3-game series.
10 plate appearances, 9 at-bats, 8 strikeouts. All swinging. Well, it's an 0-2 pitch. You see how far Felice is setting up. That's just a mistake, and he stays with it, hammers it to left field. I'm with you, Rich. I think that there is some concern here. And you have a team that just hasn't really been challenged, certainly down the stretch here, say what, a good month, 6 weeks. They're 7 games up on the Mets, 14.5 on the Marlins.
That one to left off the bat of Clint Robinson. Games that we've been watching that are certainly going to determine who's in that wild card, or if there's a play-in game to get to the wild card. One of those is Toronto and Boston. And in Boston right now, Toronto has a 1-0 lead. That's just part of the story. 6 no-hit innings from Aaron Sanchez. Gordon finds the ball and gets the out. Nice play by D. Harper ends up at third. So Aaron Sanchez of the Blue Jays is no-hitting Boston in Fenway in an enormous game for the Blue Jays. It's 1-0 going into the 7th.
Hopefully D. Gordon's all right there. Looks like he hurt his knee maybe. Ooh. Putting all the weight right on that knee.
Marlins infield is in. And here's Drew.
Well, that's putting it mildly. No hitter Aaron Sanchez. This is the start of the year. The way it's turned out.
Biggest game of the year for the Blue Jays. He's got 6 no-hit innings. Baltimore 5-1 over the Yankees. That's in the 8th now. No swing. Of course, the problem for Detroit is they need one of those teams to lose. They need Boston to come back or the Yankees to come back. And Detroit needs not only to win, they're trailing 1-0 to Atlanta in the bottom of the 6th in Atlanta. They also have that makeup game against Cleveland tomorrow. It hit him, and that's going to prevent Harper from scoring. And so Drew is going to trot down to first. And by the way, Pittsburgh leads St. Louis 2-1, but St. Louis needs the Dodgers to get up off the canvas and beat the Giants to force a play-in game between the Cardinals and the Giants, and the Dodgers are having none of it. It's 5-1 San Francisco. Matt Moore, the lefty, is sticking it in the Dodgers' ear. With just a run on 3 hits. That's bottom 6.
Running out of innings for those teams. Pittsburgh up on St. Louis, right? It's 2-1, so well, it wouldn't matter if the San Francisco wins.
Here's Defoe. Bryce looking for a ground ball. This is the part of the order that has really done damage against Tom Kohler, against Nicolino. Little tapper, Bohr out there, and really not in time. The Nationals will get that run.
Wilmer Depot just too fast. Bohr kind of deliberate, making sure he throws a perfect strike over to Echeverria. And that little tapper thought there was maybe a chance of getting a double play ball there. Bryce getting over, but Defoe just too fast. Pushing them. That's up by 1 here.
See Daniel Murphy there in the dugout. It almost looks like Murphy's getting ready for a pinch hitting spot. He was in front of the bat rack. And he is. He's got a helmet on, and that's significant news. Got the pitcher spot a couple away. Espinosa gets into 1. Deep right center. Fourth of the season, a career high for Danny Espinosa.
He just golfed that. The ball was down.
And you know what? Daniel Murphy and Lobaton chat, and it looks like Murphy's going to hit. So Lobaton comes out, and here is Murphy. He is percentage points behind DJ LeMahieu for the National League batting title. The Rockies and LeMahieu over the last 5 days have essentially sat on the sidelines, sitting on that percentage point lead in hopes that Murphy, nursing an injury, wouldn't hit and LeMahieu would win the title. And here he is. With a hit, he can take the lead on the final day. And a breaking ball from Bryce is in. LeMahieu not in the lineup for the Rockies against the Brewers. That game is bottom of the 7th, and the Rockies lead 3-2. A hit pushes him ahead of LeMahieu. And Murphy fouls it at the plate. Now, he's been swinging. We've watched him take batting practice, Al, the last 3 days, and he looks good.
Early BP, and a lot of it, too. I had a chance to talk to him yesterday, and said he wasn't going to play. Now, I think all this is playing into certainly getting a chance to be the batting title champ, as we're talking about. And he said, I'll be ready for Friday.
Here's the 1-1. It's out. Dusty Baker wanted him in a position where he wouldn't feel like he really had to run. So this is the perfect spot. He doesn't have to beat out a double play ball. If he puts it in play on the ground, he can take his time. And the Nationals now have the 3-run lead. Murphy down the right field line and foul. There's been a lot of negative reaction around baseball for what the Rockies have done. Whether it was the Rockies' decision, whether it was LeMahieu. It's one thing to step out the final day of the season, but for 5 days to sit on the sidelines. Here's the 2-2. Murphy on that breaking ball, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Boy, his eyes lit up on that hanging breaking ball from Bryce.
And the crowd knows what's going on. Two and 2. Fastball, Murphy to right, and it's lined up for Hood, and he makes the catch. Well, you know what? The Nationals gave it a shot. Murphy flies out. LeMahieu can stay on the sideline. This has been a fun day here, even though the Marlins are down 8-5. Martin Prado managing. Jeff Mathis is bench coach. 8-5. Nationals on top. 2 Marlins getting their first major league homers. Destin Hood and Tomas Telis. Daniel Murphy took a shot at the batting title. Geico. 2004, on this date in Marlins history, Armando Benitez picks up 47th save of the season, a club record. That back in 2004. Echeverria, you saw Chris Johnson on deck, and then D. Gordon. And no more Max Scherzer. Instead, Trevor Gott is in. But the run certainly put Scherzer in line to pick up win number 20.
Yeah, the Marlins got their work cut out, right? But that was it looked like the broad stroke contention for Dusty Baker and Max Scherzer. Get 5 innings in if they were ahead, hold the lead. Kid is 20 wins.
Trevor Gott. Mid to upper 90s fastball.
Yeah, we saw him in the first game of this series. Just came in for 1 out.
Echeverria bouncer up the middle. Espinosa to his left on the run. Nice play.
It was all over the place.
That's Trey Turner there at shortstop on the defensive switch. So Turner is at short.
His natural position. I know doing a heck of a job in center field. Thought he may have been the second baseman. Pushed him out to center. Now here he is at short.
There's Johnson facing Gott. Bouncer to Turner. And he throws out Johnson. Ben Revere is in center field. And the left fielder is Chris Heisey. So even Ben Revere has to look up at the board to see who's playing where.
There's Heisey. He looked up to.
And Dusty Baker makes an appearance. Of course he's going to bring a lefty in to face D. Gordon. West Kendall Toyota. Call to the pen. Midsummer Classic coming to Miami in 2017. Limited availability. At this moment, only Marlin Fish family season ticket holders are guaranteed access to purchase All-Star Week ticket strips. Marlins.com/ASG. Dance like Al Leiter. 2018 All-Star Game is here in D.C. Dusty Baker has Oliver Perez in to face D. Gordon. Why? Because he can.
He wants to use up all the, what did we say he has, 16?
16 relievers. Well, and so rather than have Trevor Gott, who got the first 2 outs pretty easily, have him get D. Gordon or try to get D. Gordon, it's Oliver Perez. Now, no offense to Perez. He deserves, all
What's going to happen in 5 days from now?
5 days from now, he's going to have 6 relievers and a long man down there.
I know, but to get Oliver Perez in a similar mindset of coming in from the bullpen in this stadium getting a key lefty out. I hear you. I hear you. Could God have gotten it out? Of course. You got 2 little ground outs to shortstop. But you got Perez come in, get your lefty out, do it in mid-inning because that may happen on Friday. What else could it be? I'm with you.
I'm hear you. I'm hear you. And you know, the luxury for Dusty Baker is he's got 16 relief pitchers, so he can do this without worrying about, hey, what happens later in the game if I need Oliver Perez, or Oliver Perez isn't even on my roster at this point. That one, a little flip into center, and it falls for a hit. And so D. Gordon has a hit. And Talise, a switch hitter now, will face the lefty Perez.
Well, Perez showing that funky delivery like a Johnny Cueto, turned his back, pause. And D. Gordon just threw it out there. Couldn't have placed it better if he tried to.
So he's lined at deep center in the first. Homered, his first major league homer. Perez has that move to first that's right on the border.
Cheap move?
No, it's one of those where that right foot from the lefty is. You're wondering, is it on the home plate side of the mound or the first base side?
The cheap move.
The cheap move.
Well, that's awkward there. The pigeon toe, how he turns it in. He'd be tough to steal off of. He's able to sit long enough. You know, so many people, well, you're left-handed, you're looking right out, but not every left-handed delivery can give deception like that. He's got all sorts of crazy stuff going. His glove is backward, foot pigeon-toed.
One of the things I was told long ago by a wily lefty, similar to you, that by turning that toe in when you do step, it gives the illusion that you're stepping towards the bag rather than towards home plate. You buy that? So if you, on your right toe, if you have it pigeon-toed, as you step, if the toe is pointing towards first, but the leg is not. Look at that. Quick move to the plate. Until he swings and misses.
Yeah, just watching this here, Rich. I mean, Oliver Perez has been around a long time. That's awfully tough to go on. You would either just guess and go first movement. He's got so much going on. Yeah, I hear you about the toe, but as soon as he picks his leg up, the toe straightens out.
He's given up 2 stolen bases this year, has no caught stealings.
That right there, you did the slide step, the snap throw over, and then a quick step, and then the big delivery kick.
It almost feels like and looks like it would be more distracting to Talise at the plate with all the variety.
That's some funk right there.
Whoa! Now that's some funk right there.
That's the old bit outside. Wow, that was straight like Bull Durham right here.
Yeah, hit Screech the Eagle. So Gordon's at second. And here's the 1-2. Backdoor breaking ball didn't come far enough. And it's 2-2. It was out. Well, when he reinvented himself as a relief pitcher, he picked up more funk along the way. And strike 2 called. Up and over the baseline. And that was a strike. Still 8-5 Nationals. Back in D.C., traffic moving right along. 8-5 Nationals. Actually, blue skies here today, which is very nice. Nice way to finish the season.
After Friday night, nasty night, raining.
Jeffrey Perez now at second base. And from Jeffrey to Neffy. Neffy Ogando.
Pretty good numbers from Neffy Ogando. 2.45. Only 13 appearances. Called up September 1st from New Orleans.
This is Chris Heisey's first plate appearance. And he lifts a pop-up out to short. Echeverria is there. Checking in on games around baseball. The no-hitter is gone for Aaron Sanchez.
Shut up.
Hanley Ramirez.
Oh, Hanley got
a home run to tie it 1-1. That's a big moment for Detroit. Now the Tigers are in Atlanta and down 1-0 in the top of the 8th inning. Julio Teheran is pitching and pitching well for the Braves.
Three hit that lineup.
Yeah,
that's a good lineup.
None of the games have gone final yet. The ones that all start at the same time. Perez on first. There's a group of games in the 9th inning. None of them have, well, I would say now the Orioles are in the 9th with a 5-2 lead over the Yankees in New York, top 9. So that's certainly one of significance. Baltimore looking for 89 wins. And a win there punches their ticket into the wild card game. Toronto has the same record as Baltimore, but their lead is gone now. They're 1-1 against Boston. But of course, for that to matter, Detroit has to come back and beat Atlanta. It's 1-0 Atlanta, top 8. Meanwhile, St. Louis has tied Pittsburgh 4-4, top 7 in St. Louis. But for that to matter, they need the Dodgers to rally. And the Dodgers, sadly, on Vin Scully's last day, are down 5-1, bottom 7.
Scully's doing the game up there, right?
He is.
It's in
San Francisco. Bouncer short, Echeverria on the first in time. Nephi Ogando goes 1, 2, 3 in the 6th. That's a 6-pitch inning. Final day, 2016 Nationals on top of the Marlins. It's the 7th. In Washington, D.C., the shadows growing, the sunlight dimming. Manager Martin Prado, bench coach Jeff Mathis working hard. Coors' timeless moment. In 1986, Don Mattingly collects his 232nd hit of the season to set a new Yankees record. 232 for Mattingly in 1986. Derek Dietrich, Oliver Perez stays in. And Dusty Baker figures, hey, you've got Dietrich, Yelich, and Bohr lined up. Big shift on for Dietrich. Two and one.
So even with nobody on, Rich, he still has that turned in foot. So, different mechanical thing to just feel closed. I mean, it's definitely unusual, shall I say?
I think Oliver might say unique. What about the glove when he sets his glove?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of he's being left-handed. Like I don't see the, he's got to turn it back in. Now this is normal.
Is that like a hall pass that you carry along with you when you have a moment like that? You just say, pull out the card and it says, I'm just being left-handed.
Yeah. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm lefty.
I'm a lefty.
Well, Oliver Perez, he's always kind of had that.
He's a lefty's lefty.
That lefty little tilt. And he's had a heck of a career. He's 35 years old, down to being a left-handed specialist. Last few years, and he had a couple good years. He was good in Seattle. Kind of found his way after not starting anymore. Back in 2012, he had a ERA a little over 2. He's done a good job.
A couple years with Arizona. Dietrich fights off a grounder against the shift. That's it's called a foul ball. Wow, it looked like it bounced over the base. That's third base umpire Jeff Kellogg.
Well, Jeff Kellogg's got a great view of this. He's just slowly dribbling along on the line.
Wow.
Really?
Oh, now this is a better view.
Okay. Let's see what the first one is. Ooh, is that on the line?
Oh, now it's not where it lands. It's where it goes over the base, but that's right on the edge.
And look at this. He couldn't have been in a better position.
Yep, he was there. Dietrich gets a breaking ball into right. Harper rushes in and makes the catch. World Baseball Classic's coming out later. And it's coming to Marlins Park. Bryce Harper said that he thinks he might be in there. Marlins Park gets the first round games, 9th through the 12th. Dominican Republic will be there. Canada will be there. And Team USA will be there.
What are we up to? How many World Baseball Classics are there? 4?
This is the 4th.
This will be the 4th.
This will be the 4th. I was thinking the other day about Marlins that might be asked to play. And this guy, I think, is someone that might be of interest. Christian Yelich.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd be a great pick.
Jim Leland is the manager for Team USA. Yelich is thrown out, and here comes Justin Bour. We'll check in with Jessica Blaylock. Hi, Jess.
Hey, Rich. Justin Bour has been swinging the bat well this week, and one guy that has noticed has been Trey Turner. Every time Turner has reached first base, he has asked Bour about hitting, really picking his brain about what is working at the plate right now for Justin Bour. And earlier today, I had a chance to ask Bour about those conversations, and he said, yeah, they're really flattering, but he looked at me and said, Trey Turner is hitting almost 350. I don't think he needs my advice. He seems to be doing just fine on his own.
That's good stuff. Bour takes in. I hear a bullpen phone, Outlider. Did you hear that ringing?
Are we hearing it through the headset, or are we actually hearing it?
No, through the headset. We've got microphones down there. See, it was. Dusty said, get 3 guys up.
We can take it down from 16 to 13.
Perez, .232 average against lefties this year. Last 6 games, lots of damage. Bour's walked twice and has a hit. That one's going to roll foul.
Well, when you see a guy like Justin Bour in the couple months that he was out, I mean, it's such a clear, obvious visual of how important he was to this lineup and how much he was missed. Keep him healthy next year.
Oliver Perez comes in and gets all the lefties out in the 7th. pretty cool, isn't it?
How cool is that? That is a baseball bat. That is a baseball bat.
And
Have you ever seen that before?
Electric violin baseball bat. That's really cool.
Have you ever seen that before?
We were really thrilled and moved by the national anthem to start the game. And that gentleman came back out and
so that would be
ripped off an incredible version of God Bless America.
I've never seen that before.
Glad you're with us in Washington, D.C. Last game of the season for the Marlins. Tune up for the Nationals, who will host the Dodgers here on Friday in the division series. Hunter Cervenka is in for Miami. And he gets Bryce Harper, Clint Robinson, and then Stephen Drew. And Cervenka bounces one up there. So games are starting to finish. Every game started at the same time, 3 o'clock Eastern, including this one. Marlins and Nationals are in the bottom of the 7th. The electric slugger is what they call that. Glenn Donnelly.
Love it. Love it.
That bat's been doctored more than Albert Bell's.
But the bait.
There you go. Harper takes down. It's 2-1. So games are starting to finish. Baltimore, we told you, 5-2 over the Yankees. And so the Orioles are in. They finish at 89-73. That makes everybody up here in the Beltway happy. This is still Oriole territory. You know the Nationals have been very popular. The Orioles have plenty of fans here too.
Toronto won in the 8th, took the lead.
It's a big game for Toronto against Boston. Toronto has a 2-1 lead over Boston, now top 8. And they've got runners on with 2 outs. Troy Tulowitzki knocking in the go-ahead run. Meanwhile, Detroit needs Boston to win, and they need a run. Detroit's down to their last 3 outs. 1-0 Atlanta, bottom 8 in Atlanta. Harper to left. Xavier Scruggs.
The first baseman, Clint Robinson.
Jeff Mathis. Martin Prado looking at the lineup card, trying to figure out who's available, who they can use in these late innings. Miguel Rojas, I probably would be considered what, first base coach?
No, I'm going to say he's. Oh, wait. We got Mathis as the bench coach.
There's a liner to right center. You know what? Now, if you wanted to take it even further, what if Martin Prado and Jeff Mathis, when they're making out the lineup card, are able to say, hey, why don't we get Bonds in it back?
Donnie Baseball?
Let's get Mattingly in the ball game.
We had what? This was the anniversary of his 237th hit?
Yes.
Back in.
We could put Wallach at third. Let's move Bonds to right. I think Nieves is good for a couple innings. If we need a pinch hitter, Lenny Harris is the all-time leader. Frankie can play second. Brian Schneider can hop behind the plate. That's a pretty good ball club from just your coaching staff.
You do. Where's Lenny playing? Left field.
Wherever you need him.
Yeah. How about getting Giancarlo? Put a couple guys on base, pop one out of here.
Stephen Drew lifts that to center. Yelich cruising in, makes the catch. Let's check in with Jessica Playlock. Hi, Jess.
Hey, Rich. Yesterday we know that it was rookie dress-up day for the Marlins, and the theme was the energy team dancers that dance at Marlins Park. You can see those yellow and blue outfits. Now, of course, the one question that you have to ask is who wore it best? Xavier Scruggs told me that it was Hunter Cervenka because Cervenka actually ended up having a wardrobe malfunction. His was just a little too tight and ended up splitting up the back, but Cervenka was a good sport about it. He had a good laugh with all of the guys, and that's certainly a funny moment for this team yesterday.
Now, did we suppress the photos of the wardrobe malfunction for Cervenka, or because they might not be suitable for air, or?
Right, we do not have any evidence. When I was asking Brian Ellington about Cervenka, he disagreed with Xavier Scruggs. He said, I don't know if you want to call that a guy wearing the outfit best. So no photo evidence. At least we'll save Hunter Cervenka from having to go through that.
Wilmer Defoe, the switch hitter, around right side. Facing Cervenka here in the 7th. Earlier today on Marlins Live, we talked about our postseason award picks. Craig Minervini, Carl Pavano, Al Leiter. I also selected MVPs, Cy Youngs. Bouncer to short. Echeverria, flip it. Perez is there. When we get back, we'll take a look at those. And an 8-5 Nationals lead. Cards as bench coach. Martin Prado managing. Nationals, though, up 8-5. Now, before the game on Marlins Live, we all kind of got together throughout our picks. Al, here are your picks for your postseason awards.
Yeah, that's right. And, well, I don't know. You know, a couple I think would be surprising, and I hope it happens. Jose Fernandez to keep his legacy alive every year. To see him as the Cy Young Award winner, it's not totally far-fetched. See if that plays out. I got the Cubbies over the Rangers. The American League, Rich, is the hardest to handicap. I like the Red Sox as well. And Anthony Rizzo, I just think he's kind of the guy. And I know Chris Bryant, he's having an MVP season. And you can pick a couple guys out of that Red Sox team. I think I can't overlook Rick Porcello. That 22-4 with an ERA 5th in the league. Those are my picks.
I think very solid picks. I like and some creative. I like the Mookie Betts pick there. And there's number 16 and Rizzo over Bryant. That's thinking that's a Theo Epstein type selection, a little out of the box. Because the Bryant's numbers, everybody kind of has him going.
I think Anthony Rizzo has kind of that tough. He's the guy.
Well, if you think about it now, Theo Epstein knew him, right? Boston, then to San Diego. When Theo went from Boston to Chicago, actually traded Andrew Kashner for Anthony Rizzo. And he was like the cornerstone. He's the guy they built around.
What do you got, Rich?
All right, here we go. Here's who I've got. I'm going Altuve. I love Altuve for a lot of reasons. His defense, his offense, spark plug. He kind of drove that Houston train this season. I'm going Bryant. You know, the one thing I really like about him is that he didn't complain. Whenever Joe Madden said, I need you in left, I need you at third, I think he actually played center for a little bit. I think that in itself adds value. A guy he could push around defensively and plug in different spots.
Indians over the Cubbies?
Indians over the Cubs. I was so impressed with the Indians when the Marlins went to Cleveland and were swept in that 3-game series. That place was jumping. The games felt like postseason games. The Indians seemed to have an answer for everything. So, yeah, I'm going Indians there. And I got Kluber winning the Cy Young in the American League. I had Scherzer as my National League pick. But after today, gave up 5 runs in 5 innings. I kind of like your Jose pick. I'm a little jealous of that.
All right, so you could. Well, Jose, that'd be nice. What about the Cubbies? You got Kyle Hendricks. You got John Lester.
Understood. Hood, little bouncer, Turner's throw, safe at first. Alan Porter with the call. Hood will head back to first. It's going to be a single, but it also will be looked at on video.
I mean, immediately, Clint Robinson. Now, he could hear a bang, bang. He obviously somebody going on the bag with his foot. Couldn't tell from that one. Oh, really?
And neither of those looks or replays give us definitive evidence to overturn. Super slow-mo from next door. That's the official title of this. Foot on the bag, back of glove. I think he beat it. And no.
Oh.
Yeah, you could see the foot come down on the other side. At the end of that replay. Hey, you know, the interesting thing is this, Al. Pat Shine, who's been in the Marlins video room, or anyone who is the video coach for any team, that's the same sequence we went through, they go through. They look at initial looks. When that super slow-mo becomes available, they'll look at that. And it wasn't until the end of that super slow-mo that you saw Hood's foot still coming down on the bag after it looked like the ball went into the back of the glove.
I think they're going to overturn this.
Crowd watching the reviews up on the scoreboard. Umpires are as well.
Now you're looking at the heel, right? You know the toe's not on, but
yeah, the heel's on, though, isn't it?
Wow.
That's really close.
Just that one shot, the super slow-mo, kind of seemed like, but then again, you couldn't see the heel portion of it.
Was last year the first time you heard the term back of the glove?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when replay first came in, all of a sudden we were all aware that, hey, for a ball to be securely in the glove, it's when it hits the back of the glove.
Yes, yes.
I'd never heard that term in baseball until replay came in. He's safe.
Wasn't enough.
Yeah, it wasn't enough.
I think the heel may have had contact.
Call stands. I think you're right, Outline. I think you were on it with the heel. So neither team has a challenge left. And a big day for Destin Hood. Hood with his first major league homer, and he adds an infield hit. Lopez trying to keep him close. Well, the dreams of the Detroit Tigers have expired. 1-0 Atlanta beats the Tigers. And that was Julio Teheran against Justin Verlander. A 5-hit shutout. Jim Johnson came in and got the save.
He just got rewarded with a 2-year deal.
Yep. Echeverria to right, sending Harper back into the corner. Teheran went 7, struck out 12. 3 hits of shutout.
And the Braves scored in the first inning, right? And that was it.
That was it. Our next pregame show, Marlins Live, brought to you by South Florida Honda Dealers.
April 3rd.
April 3rd here in Washington, D.C. Season ends here. Season begins here. We've arranged to leave many of our articles of clothing at the hotel and just pick them up in 6 months. Leave our Fox Sports polo shirts.
Their Vin Scully pin.
Our Vin Scully pin today. You can leave, some shampoo, grooming products. I know you use the Matt Vasgersian line. That one eats Defoe up, rolls into right center field, and Hood racing for third. Jeffrey Perez pulls it at second.
I know he hit that ball hard, but I gotta believe that's an error. Wilmer Defoe just didn't get in front of it. You see him set here. That's a hot smash. Yeah,
that's E4.
Just kicked up off, kind of played it, didn't play it square up. Watch here, his body slightly toward the left.
And the Marlins are going to pinch hit, and it's Giancarlo Stanton. This is the pitcher spot in the order. Remember when Jeffrey Perez came in, he came in the 9 spot. So here's Stanton now for his final at bat, and guess what? The Nationals are going to intentionally walk him. You got Talise on deck. Mathis, Prado talking it over. So Stanton's last at bat, an intentional walk. Marlins should have somebody they could pinch run for Stanton. You probably don't want him out there. He's the tying run, and if ball gets knocked in the gap, you don't want Stanton trying to go full speed with that groin injury.
Frenchie.
I don't think he's getting ready to hit. They may not pinch run for Stanton. Don Mattingly is a valued resource nearby.
Wow. I mean, Donnie let him do it. I mean, a lot of times this is more of just a honorary thing.
One thing Prado said in his pregame media session is he met with Mattingly. They kind of went over some things to think about. And yesterday we saw them both standing up on that top step together. And he said, just talking to Mattingly about managing the game, he said there's so many more things that go into it than you realize.
And quicker.
Yes, it happens very fast. All right, here is Talise. Ball in the dirt. Miami down 3, but the bags are loaded. Hood had the infield hit. Talise and Hood both homered in the ballgame, their first major league homers. changeup ripped into right. That's a base hit. Hood will score. Perez will score. And Miami is within a run. Barry Bonds quite happy. What a nice day for Tomas Talis. 4 runs driven in. A 2-run single here. And Dusty Baker's on his way out.
There's a hanging changeup. What a nice day for Tomas Talis. 2 RBIs here, making this game 8-7. Got a ball game. Hung it upstairs. You see Lenny Harris doing the wave.
So it's a 1-run game. Lefty comes in. Dietrich due up. West Kendall Toyota called to the pen. Back in D.C. and things getting interesting here. Miguel Rojas is pinch running at second base for Giancarlo Stanton. Tomas Talis is at first. Sammy Solis is on the mound, and Jeff Francoeur is hitting. And Solis gets a strike on Francoeur. Miami trying to come back against the Nationals with 2 outs in the top of the 8th. In a game that Martin Prado is managing. And Francoeur, who was going to rip at it, whether it was a fastball or the rosin bag.
Yeah, that butts over his head. And when Francoeur gets swinging, that's a big, healthy cut. Behind here, he's got to fight. You see that second pitch way out of his zone.
He lays off that fastball. It's 1-2. Be interesting to see where Francoeur ends up next year. Foul tip wasn't held by Severino. And a swing and a miss. Chased a fastball. Solis finishes the inning. Miami's within a run, but running out of time. After the game on Marlins Live, presented by Checkers, 2016 end of season video. This a little preview of it. We'll also have a tribute to Jose Fernandez, tribute to Ichiro and his 3,000 hits. Martin Prado has been able to bring his club within a run.
Martin trying to explain that it was a straight change.
Looks like Frank Core is going to go in and play third base.
Has he ever played third?
We are looking. With that smile,
yeah,
it kind of looks like this is a little new to him. That is not Brian Ellington. It's Jeff Francoeur. This is Brian Ellington. And that one is smoked to left. And it's over the head of Scruggs. Pedro Severino. Well, that was a loud double.
First pitch from Ellington, 99 miles an hour, and Severino just turns on it. Scruggs got turned around a bit there. That was a line shot. Just kind of didn't judge as to turn around quickly and sprint back. Would have been a heck of a play. Boy, Severino, this guy's can turn on any heater.
This is the Major League debut for Spencer Kieboom. And Ellington with a fastball goes to 1-0. Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Here's a 1-1. In the dirt, Talise has to smother it. San Francisco has solidified a wild card spot. Giants and Mets will play in New York. St. Louis was primed and ready. They were up 10-4, but St. Louis is now eliminated.
So O's at Toronto.
O's at Toronto, Baltimore at Toronto.
San Francisco at Mets.
Yep, those are your wild card games.
So much for the three-ways and four teams.
There'll be no three-ways, no team one plays team two, loser plays team three. For Jeff Francoeur, it's his Major League debut in the infield. I would have thought he'd play first base before, but
Frenchie never played first.
Frenchie's never played first.
And here he is at the hot corner.
Yeah, and he's got traffic on the bases, too. He's got traffic headed in his direction with runners at first and second. And Brian Ellington trying to dial it in right now. Spencer Kieboom, by the way, went on to play at Clemson, so he's probably in a pretty good mood today. Ellington fastball in the dirt.
Getting behind. I like this kid. I think Ellington, if he figures it out consistently to get ahead, has closer arm. His stuff says back end of a bullpen.
Pop up from Chris Heisey. It's Jeffrey Perez at second, and he makes the catch. Trey Turner has been one of the regulars that has stuck around in this ball game. He's moved around from center field to shortstop. A couple walks, stolen base. Ellington has an out. Okay, out. You throw 98, 99 miles an hour, as Ellington does. How do you consistently get outs with them? Because, I mean, look, we've seen guys at this level, if you don't have the ability to miss bats at 99, still get hurt at 99.
Right. So watching Ellington, here's a guy that I think he's figuring out his way to get into believing what comes out of his arm. So one, you can't get behind. You still want to establish get ahead. I think when he improves his slider and has a better ability to pound the zone more often and get in positive counts, then he's got the two pitches, Rich. The 98. But if you see here, it's like spray. You're 2-0, 2-1, 3-1. I don't care who you are. Even at 99 miles an hour, he's touched triple digits. You get in bad counts. Eventually, guys are going to eliminate your slider, and they're going to look heater. And I, you know, it's also he's a young big league pitcher. You know, to believe in yourself at this level. I mean, that's just the stroke easy fastball at 98. So you know the stuff is there. I would get a consistent delivery, work on that to where you can make quality pitches. Get in the count early. 0-2, 1-2. Now you got doubt for hitters. It's a slider. Get a little more depth on his slider.
Fastball, ground ball, center field. That's a hit. Round third, and scoring. Severino. Trey Turner has made it 9-7.
So, Rich, an example of this, of Brian Ellington. This is he's behind in the count. He's thrown one slider, missed, 3-1 count, and then it's center cut. So he doesn't really know exactly where it's going to go. This is what I talk about. You can have control, and then you can have command. I mean, look where this ball is. It's middle. And even at 98, 99, you know, these hitters, especially guys that, you know, a guy like a Trey Turner, you know, shorten it up, think middle of the field.
Keyboom out at second. Turner at first.
I mean, Ellington has 32. He had 32 and 2/3 innings coming into this appearance with 14 walks. That's not good. But yet his arm says, for me, it's there. Right there. You're struggling with your command, and you throw an 0-0 changeup. Now, if I'm going to have throw an 0-0 changeup, it's part of my repertoire, and I know I can throw it for a strike, because the last thing you want is an 0-0 changeup at 89. Now you're ball one. Like, what would be the point of that? If it's a third pitch for me, that's an action ball. I want a guy to see a couple 99s, and then I throw a changeup. I want to tease him. So I don't get why you throw an 0-0 changeup. What do you change it up off of? And now these guys are wide. These guys are watching. Where is he? He's all over the place. Hone him in. Your spot, your area. You like it in, inner half, up? Where you like it?
It gets back to our discussion yesterday of command versus control. That's in the left field. That's a hit. Keyboom scores. And the Nationals now a 10-7 lead. Nieves out for a visit with Brian Ellington. One game that's not done yet is the game in Boston. Toronto has a 2-1 lead in Boston. It's bottom 9, 1 out, nobody on. At stake there is the number 1 versus number 2 wild card spot. If Toronto wins it, they have the same record as Baltimore, but of the 19 games, Toronto won 10 between the two. So they still have to finish that game to be able to host the wild card game. Harper, that's in orbit. It's foul, but wow.
Yeah, wow. Oh, my.
I mean, way up there. That guy with the Marlins shirt was on that stairwell. I think he got a hand on it. But that was a tough play. Watch this gentleman, the gray shirt. Ooh. I don't think they actually thought when they took their seats that they were going to get a ball up there today. One for 4 is Harper. Ball 4 and Harper walks.
Martin Prado.
So on a day where Martin Prado is managing, he gets a taste of what it's like when the bullpen can't get you outs late in the game. Also comes on a day where the Rockies have decided not to bring back Walt Weiss, and it sounds like Robin Ventura is stepping down with the White Sox as well. West Kendall Toyota, called to the pen. Bottom 8. Rich Waltz, Al Leiter, Jessica Blaylock, Craig Minervini, and Carl Pavano will be by to entertain you on Marlins Live postgame. And Odrisamer Despagne. There they are. Look at them, intense.
We see you.
Marlins Live postgame coming up. Look at Pavy, steel-eyed, in the game. This is a Clint Robinson at bat. Soft pop-up. Yelich has it. And everybody holds with the bags loaded. And so Robinson is out. Stephen Drew, 10 runs, 10 hits, Nationals, 7 runs, 13 hits, Marlins. Red Sox trying to finish off, or excuse me, the Blue Jays trying to finish off the Red Sox. It's a 2-1 Toronto. Bottom 9, 2 outs. Runner at first. Blue Jays would wrap up the #1 American League wild card spot. They would host Baltimore. Of course, with the second wild card, then one of the nuances now is removed in that you can play a team from your division in the wild card game. Remember, it used to be the wild card. They didn't want to play a team that won that division. And so they kept the divisions separate.
But now, as it should be, it's seeding, right? Yeah. The #1 team is going to play the 4th best team.
All bets are off.
Plus, you credit the team that, well, here, the Cubs, they won today, right? So 103 wins.
Yep.
You know, to play a team that, you know, is going to burn their ace in a 5-game series.
The Mets, by the way, lost today to the Phillies 5-2. The Phillies end up with 71 wins. I think that's more wins than many thought the Phillies would have this year. If the Marlins don't come back, the Marlins will end up 79 wins. And it's over. Toronto beats Boston 2-1. Bohr gathers it in. Francoeur never saw a ground ball at third. And this ball game's going to the 9th. Marlins Baseball, Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. By Ram, get power you can depend on at Ram Power Days. And by your South Florida Honda dealers. And by Farmer John's Meats.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Nice year, Rich.
Well, hi again, everybody. So anyways, that's little Vin Scully for you. He just finished his final broadcast. We salute 67 years of excellence. And if you're going to have a Dodger dog, make it Farmer John's Meats. Mark Melancon. Melancon getting a little tune-up, so to speak. That's the other concern. I mean, if you're both the Dodgers and the Nationals, I mean, in the course of a regular season, if your closer hasn't worked in 4 days or 5 days, that's a little bit of a red flag. And so everybody trying to get a little tune-up for everyone here on a Sunday before heading to the postseason.
Yeah, the balance, right? They've 4 days off because they've pushed this back now. The wild card division series has given those teams that are in the wild card adequate days rest to get into it.
Yeah, and remember the division series for the Nationals and the Dodgers doesn't start till Friday.
So the Giants and the Mets are Tuesday. The Orioles go up to Toronto on Wednesday.
Giants and Mets are Wednesday.
See, Wednesday, okay.
Baltimore, Toronto is Tuesday. American League Division Series starts Thursday. National League on Friday. Here is Yelich at 296. It looks like that he gave it a good run to get to 300, but look at the other numbers. 21 homers, 98 driven in, the OPS at 857. Just an outstanding year for Yelich. And he pulls that one foul. As well, getting to play center field on a regular basis for Don Mattingly and his staff over the last month. Yelich did play center field some last year. And I think moving forward, that's where you're going to see Yelich is out in center. RBI triple and a single today.
Well, you look at the Marlins going into the winter, Rich, right? I mean, position players, they're offensively, they're solid everywhere. Not one spot.
You know, the one area in terms of position players you would look to is not a certain position. It's just depth. If a guy goes down, who do you put it first for Justin Bour? If Stanton has an issue, do you losing him, is that it's such a huge drop-off when Bour and Stanton were out of the lineup?
Pretty good position to be in. You're right. The depth of clubs that can't do what the Yankees or Red Sox or Dodgers, you just go keep buying players. You got to have, as you say, a replacement that doesn't fall off that much.
3-2. Yelich into left field. How sweet is that? Breaking ball. Yelich stays on it, and a 3-hit game for Yelich to finish off 2016.
Would you say he was 297?
296.
296. That might push him 297.
That might get him 298.
What a year. What a awesome young man.
I'm with you though in terms of frontline position players. Outfield, Yelich, Ozuna, Stanton, Prado, Bour on the corners, D. Gordon at second.
Everywhere.
Real Muto behind the plate, Echeverria at short. I think if you can get what you got out of Echeverria 2 years ago offensively, you'd be happy when he hit the 280s. To not have a great offensive year this year.
But you know this, Rich. If you could play slick defense as he had, he might win the gold this year. Brandon Crawford, haven't watched him a whole lot, but there's not too many guys that much better than Echeverria at short. So you get your defensive plus out of him. Yeah, it would be nice if he hit like he did a couple years ago.
I'll take the guy at the plate as a real key to next year, and that's Justin Bour. He's been able to get consistent playing time in 2 seasons. And in both seasons, he's really looked dangerous.
And on the power side, right, Rich? I mean,
Yes.
they're second least home runs in the National League, only to the Braves.
Bohr pulls a ground ball. Robinson fires out there. Out there. And of course, Bohr still slowed. That high ankle sprain. Nationals turn the double play. And this season is down to 1 out.
Yeah, Robinson backs up here, but again, Bohr not the fastest guy in a quick transfer. Nice job by Melanson getting there. The 3-6-1 unusual double play.
Xavier Scruggs. And 0 for 4 today. There is only one other game going in Major League Baseball. The Rays over on Sun Sports. How about that? The two Florida teams are the only two still going. The Marlins trailing here. The Rays lead Texas 4-3 in Texas, with Texas threatening and nobody out. Marlins Live post game to give you all the scores, the postseason matchups. Melanson misses in. Unless the Marlins rally here, 79-82. Playing just 161 games this year. On the ground. In time. And 2016 for the Marlins is over. Ichiro, a pinch hit today. Martin Prado making his managing debut, so to speak. Tip of the cap from the Marlins to the Nationals, wishing them luck in the postseason. That's good to see.
Dusty's likable, and everybody in baseball, recognize what these guys been through the last week. Hasn't been easy. I think the Marlins definitely step in the right direction. More positive than not for much of the season.
Without question, especially off of last year, in contention until the middle of September, and then falling out in the last 3 weeks, and obviously the tragedy of last week. And so spring training in 2017, and remember, spring training 2017, the Washington Nationals will be in the neighborhood. They will be training in that new ballpark at Palm Beach, with 2 teams coming to Palm Beach. And so the Marlins, the Cardinals, the Nationals, I believe the Astros are the 4th team.
It's the Astros, yeah. I know the Braves are talking about it.
Yeah. All right, let's go down to Jessica Blaylock. Jess?
Yeah, I'm joined by Destin Hood, who was able to hit his first big league home run, and you get it off of Max Scherzer. How special was that moment for you?
I mean, it didn't hit me until, the next inning, because, it's Max Scherzer, so, I was just thinking 1-0, just try to get